Hello, beautiful, alive, and energized tribe. I hope you can see me okay. It looks just a little foggy in here. I'm actually in San Diego right now. Tomorrow begins a spiritual business woman's retreat that I'm attending. I decided based on intuition that I was going to go. And if you read my post earlier, I just went through all this resistance in my mind this morning about why I didn't really need to invest in it. I didn't really want to go. I was trying to make all these logistical reasons why not, even though I already got my plane ticket, I already paid for it and everything. And so I'm here and very much looking forward to the week, and also really having my shit put out in front of me and working through some blocks that I'm having. I think one of the best things I've done in my life that has actually helped my healing process as well, in this deeper sense, is actually starting a business, because it brings up everything about scarcity, about abundance, about self-worth, and so many other things. And so really looking forward to working through more of that. And that is why I encourage it so much through this process, is because I know how important it is to really work on the emotional and work through our blocks and also be supported in it. Because oftentimes we're only around friends or family. They're not going to call you out all the time, or they're not going to know really what you need and have that kind of outsider's point of view or the experience. And also too, investing in yourself is such an important aspect of growth and of health and of well-being. I think that especially as women, we often feel like we have to do it all. And that is not true, right? We're just like, well, I should be able to do it. It's my food and my health, right? Like, I should know all these things. And it's like, it takes years really to sometimes really get into the nitty gritty of it. And that's why I always look to other people anytime that I've invested my health or tried to, where been in up leveling, is I always look to others who have really have the results that I want and also have gone through the training. That way I can make it easier and easier for myself and really build up the knowledge. So with that, today I wanted to talk to you. Our next video in the Winter Wisdom series is all about food, health, and the holidays. We've been talking about a lot of the emotional pieces. And today I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the more specifics that can happen with unsupportive family members, and also releasing guilt around food when we do decide to have other foods, and also just how to enjoy yourself on a healing diet. It seems like there's always a time of year, right? It's summer, it's barbecues, it's winter, it's holidays. There's always going to be something within the healing diet. So that really brings me to my first point. When you look at it as a diet or something that you're doing temporarily, it will always feel difficult. When you begin to look at it as a lifestyle and more in the long term, you realize you have more flexibility and it is not restrictive. And if we only give ourselves this very limited ability by saying, well, it would just be easier if nobody else lived with me, if there wasn't barbecues, if there wasn't events, if there's nothing, going on, then it would be so much easier. Well, the truth is there's always going to be something. And I think coming to that realization and coming to that truth makes it a lot easier. So going, okay, there's always going to be something. So in order for this to work for me, I really have to create a lifestyle, which means I need to work through my own excuses, my own bullshit, and come up with an action plan as well, right? Do the emotional work and also have the logistical stuff. For me, that's been really helpful, is being like, okay, but how do I actually put that into action, right? You have to have both. So within that, I first want to talk about being on more of a healing, like in this healing lifestyle. Everyone's may look a little bit different. I know a lot of you are working on doing more fruits and vegetables and all these things. So the one thing I would really say is when you look at it in the long term, you're not going to hold yourself to this ideal of perfection. You realize that you don't have to eat only fruit to be good. Veggies are great too. And you give yourself more leeway in how much variety you can have. So instead of shifting into restrictive, you look at, how many things could I have? What could I enjoy right now? Like, what would be really, really good? And so for me, of course, if you're in a really life-threatening area, some of my clients, it's really life-threatening. They don't have as much wiggle room, but for a majority of us, we do. It's like, yeah, I can play with all these different raw foods and I can have all these different things. And if I eat a cooked food, okay. But I'm looking at that long term. goal. And that's why I love working with people in a longer term process, because we get to go through the emotions. We get to go through those pieces of learning how to make it a lifestyle. And it's like, oh, I was putting so much weight on myself to be perfection. So specifically in the holidays, shift from restrictive to more like variety. Like, think about all the different things you can have. Start getting on Pinterest, look at different recipe books and things like that, and be willing to play with other things. I have you're gonna all have access to it. It's not specific raw, but it is a vegan and grain-free cookbook that's specifically for the holidays. That's really great. I've had a lot of people do well with that they'll change it specifically during Thanksgiving and play with a little more or more ideas, specifically if they're going to go see their family. That way they can bring a cauliflower rice stuffing, of having like an orange and cranberry sauce that's made from home instead of with refined sugar, to be able to have a banana chai milkshake, to be able to have, what else is in there, like a shepherd's pie that's just all vegetables, and homemade mashed potatoes and things like that. And can make it a little bit easier. So give yourself just a little bit of leeway if you feel that would be supportive to you, because sometimes we get ourselves so much in perfection, we stress more, which actually takes a greater toll on our body than if we just ate the damn thing. And so sometimes that's helpful. And like I said, also take into account, how serious, if you have any serious health issues. But for most of us, it's like, give yourself some spaciousness, to have fun, make this fun, right? Be in the joy of it. If it's all like heavy and like always in the trenches of doing the emotional work and all this stuff, it's like, ugh, like I don't want to be in here for like years. Make it fun, have fun with it. Also within that too, choose something that you really kind of liked in the past for the holidays. Maybe it's a cranberry sauce, maybe it's a pie, maybe it's whatever it is, and find different alternatives to play with, like I talked about with the cauliflower rice stuffing and things like that. And even find raw, different ways to do it. So you can still involve some of those foods you liked, but do it in a new way, right? Get creative and have fun. Ask questions. The more you're involved in the process, the easier and more fun it gets. Also too, with dealing with unsupportive family members in this way, I know this can be a heavy one for a lot of people. One, we already talked about, sometimes not going it can be the best thing for you, right? So check out that video if you haven't already looked at it. But sometimes not going where you know people are emotionally abusive for your needs, then oops, I got a little notification. If you feel that you're going to be in a position that is abusive emotionally, obviously don't put yourself in that position. That is a choice. You always have a choice. Also with this, send an email even beforehand or have a conference call with your family. Speak your needs. So an email can sometimes be easier if that's what you feel. But sending just a thing like, hey, I'm really working on XYZ. Even if you do not agree with what I am doing, I am asking for your support because I'm going to do it anyways. You not supporting me does not help this situation, and I feel uncomfortable when around you. I'd prefer to share this time with you, to be with family, to enjoy ourselves, to laugh and tell stories, and not have you focused on my food. What I choose to do with my body has nothing to do with you. Are you willing and able to do this for me? Very straightforward, and see what your answer is with that. And if people bring it up too while you're with them, one of the kind of the scripts that I like to use is I'm not willing and available for that conversation right now, and walk away if they do not, because you always have a choice to stay in a conversation. Even if you are in a room with your family, you always have a choice to leave. You always have a choice to go, right? Be somewhere else. So as much as you can, right? So, easy to say, I'm not willing and available for that conversation. Engaging in arguments, often we try to convince somebody of what we're doing. It's not always the best. So the one thing I really learned when working in the animal rights realm was to be compassionate in our shares about what we're doing, and don't try to force anybody to believe in what we're doing. This is where often food is a very, very emotional topic. So to be in the space of Compassionate listening, compassionate sharing. If you don't want people to talk about what you're eating, don't bring it up. Also, if somebody, if they're saying and like, oh, how's that going? And they're really genuine. Oh, it's going great. I really love it. Instead of being like, you should totally do this. When we should people, we also in a way push them away. So not shoulding people, be in compassionate conversation, not trying to force people to see our side of the view, our side, our viewpoint. Put yourself in a position of where you are, right, with them. You don't want to hear about their experience and their thing. So think about the same thing for you. So really be in that space of compassionate listening, compassionate sharing, or not sharing at all, right? Set the preface for it, before you even show up to that party. Send an email, have the conversation, have your scripts ready. I am not willing and available for that conversation. If you need to have a clearing with somebody, go through what I call is I feel, the story I'm telling myself is X. Is this true, right? When you hammer me about my eating choices, I feel angry and frustrated. The story I'm telling myself is that you don't care about how I feel, that you do not support me. Is this true? So you can always do that if you want to be in conversation. Know that you never have to be in a conversation that you do not have to be in, that you do not want to be in. Also too, going through this myself, I know that it can take time for family to adjust to a new way of eating. Like I said, food is a very emotional topic. There's a lot of traditions and ancestral heritage and memories and all these things that are passed down. And so it can be difficult for people to adjust to what you already know. So remember that. It can be difficult. I know for my parents, my mom, when I first went vegan, was like, oh, here, have some pizza. And I was like, it has cheese on it. She said, oh, it's just a little bit. Like, she didn't really get it. And I said, a little bit is a lot to me. It doesn't matter. It's all the same. But thank you anyways, right? Instead of being angry. We never want to be in anger and frustration. But really being, they're not where I'm at. That's cool. They don't have to be. They do not have to be. So really set that scene. Of course, that comes with the prevention, talking about it, not going, and just being in that space for yourself. Also, too, have someone to talk to, whether it's your coach, a mentor, a friend, somebody that you can text, your kind of lifeline during family events if you feel really triggered. And also have a plan for how to leave a place if you feel that it can become emotionally abusive for yourself. And then moving on to releasing guilt around food, just as we talked about in the video before. Guilt is a choice. The only person that can make you feel guilty about having other things is you. So choose beforehand. Like, there's no perfection. There's going to be these foods. Maybe I do want to have like a warm kale salad with roasted sweet potatoes or something, and that's okay. So not guilting yourself if you're going to have it beforehand, right? Or when you have it as, oh, I had it. Okay, cool. Well, I'm just going to continue everything else I'm doing. That's what makes it a lifestyle, not a diet, because it's less of this and like, just feeling guilt and then going, well, I'm totally failing. It's that happens. Sometimes it happens once in a while, but that doesn't mean anything. That's just part of my life. That's just happening. And the more you accept it, the less you reject what you're doing. So I want to repeat that. The more you accept that there is no failure, that there is no perfection, and that you can have anything anytime you want, the less likely that you are going to reject the stuff that is the best for you. So remembering that as you choose your food choices. For me, I like to play around with different foods. Like we talked about, I like to play around with the different flavors that happen, but maybe in a new way. Like I'm not going to have mashed potatoes and gravy necessarily, but I might have something that's similar. Maybe I'll have roast potatoes and some other sauce that I like. Or maybe I'm going to have, instead of apple pie, I'm going to have like a raw caramel sauce that I'm going to dip my apples in. I made raw caramel apples for Samhain. Oh my gosh, so good. So then also playing with those different aspects, right? Of playing so you're not like all in these extremes. You have to find the middle. What could be the middle? So start getting into that. It's like, if I'm only forcing, like, this is all I'm going to do. I'm always going to only have fruit. But fuck, like I just really want this and I really don't want fruit. So then I go and binge on this like pizza or whatever it is. Or maybe it's that Thanksgiving roast or something. Find out what the middle is like. Oh, that would be like a good middle place. It's where I find a lot of my clients have better results because they've given themselves that leeway, so they're able to stay with it in the long term, which gets them better results long term, versus those who feel like they go back and forth. It actually takes more time. I've seen this over and over again. I've been doing it long enough to really know that. So know that having some middle ground while also working on the deep stuff, and know that there's also a difference between excuses for behavior that does not serve you versus being gentle and creating a lifestyle. So know that. And that's why also having a coach or somebody that's going to call you out on your shit and really kind of work through that stuff with you will really help you to see where that is at. So those are some suggestions for all of you today about food health in the holidays. Let me know what you think, what you're going through. I'd love to hear from you, what's coming up, and also too where you maybe need more support in this. Like if you have any questions, do let me know. I'm going to be a little bit more silent this week as I go into my own retreat space. I'll be popping in the morning and the evening, but I'll be pretty quiet as I do my own work and dive into that piece. So in service to all of you and your greatest health and your greatest wellness, so that you really can have the life that you desire for yourself. I will talk to you all soon.